Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all. Is there anybody signed up for public comments? Did anybody sign up for public comments?
You have one. It's Patrick King of AEP for an agenda item.
Okay, well, we'll wait till the agenda item. Okay. So we're going to start off with item number 2, monthly reports. So, Mr. Bain, the monthly financial report for August, sir.
Thank you. These materials were in the materials as provided to council as part of the meeting packet. For the month of August, we have a report concerning the revenues of the general fund, the system fund, and the garbage funds. These are the the only funds of the city which are set up within the Encode system. Other funds which would typically be seen had to do with your INS debt service fund, perhaps a court fund, the EDC. The EDC fund is handled more or less manually outside of the system. And all of those things are indicative of the setup process for Encode when Encode was installed in 2017, which is still, quote, in process. Nonetheless, for the 3 major funds of the city, the first page shows your current budget for the year, which, as we previously discussed, was upside down approximately $384,000. I can give it a try. Well, that's a little bit too much. That's about as good as I can do, I think. And so where it says current period, that is the month of August activity. As a reminder, this report is on a cash flow basis, money in, money out. So for the month of August, the recorded net cash flows was a minus $28,000. That probably reflects the prohibition against discretionary spending. Typically, we would expect that number to be closer to $60,000 or $80,000 for a typical month that did not include ad valorem cash flows. The year-to-date numbers, basically last month's, the prior numbers, plus the net activity shown here. So thus, for year-to-date through August, your deficit position or your expenses over revenues are approximately $1.1 million. Moving on to the next page that was in your book, has the... Can you scroll back down real quick? Go back.
So on that, the 28,000 on the current period. So one of the things that we did initially when we talked about discretionary spending is we immediately started cutting back on what people were purchasing. Everything needed to be pre-approved. There was no longer just, I need this, I'm going to go buy it. So we started to try to control the flow of expenses when we first came in, to try to basically try to wrong some of the things that were happening. Like Mr. Bain said, initially the city was spending, it was over somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000 a month. And by just cutting back the discretionary spending, by saying, look, unless it's absolutely necessary to run your department, we're not going to purchase it. We're going to buy just what we need to function to get us through the rest of the fiscal year. And those were the results. We went from some months where we were at 40 to 60,000 to 28,000. So that alone made a big difference for the month of August, and we hope to see a similar pattern for September as well. Thank you, sir.
So this does not include payroll for August.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
So
sir.
what about the open positions that we no longer have?
That would be part of your
So
savings.
that's a big part of the savings as well, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure how many, I don't know how many open positions there were in the month of August. You have the city administrator position, although my contract would offset the savings from that position. And so the next page goes into a little more detail. The first section has to do with just the general fund. And the general fund sources of revenues being taxes, and then you have sales and licenses, other intergovernmental. The intergovernmental that came in of 45,000 was a supplement from the county for rural fire calls. Rural fire calls. And then with regards to the expenses, as you can see, for some of those items, particularly in the street and the fire, that would be repairs and maintenance costs that are causing those budget overruns. You're upside down for the year of $600,000.
So the money we get from the county for fire doesn't, we don't get it till the new year.
Yes, we did it, well, this year we got it in August.
In August, so that's included in there.
It was received and is recorded. It was budgeted at 50,
And when it come in?
45. I mean, and the fire calls are based upon number of actual calls and things of that nature. So it's a little bit of a process.
What I would like to do in the future, once we get our budget in order, is bring it up to council to maybe when we do get that money from the county, that goes into the fire department's budget. So they have that, because they're the ones that are actually out there responding to the calls. And I think it's only fair that the money compensates them for that, and that we that so they can use it for repairs and maintenance.
What's the, so who sets that rate of what they?
It's voted on by commissioners court. I don't know what the fire marshal and the county auditor, I don't know their equations or calculations, if that's your question.
Okay.
It's usually fairly consistent from year to year. I think it might have been up $2,000 from the year before.
Okay.
The next page has to do with your system or your utility fund. One of the things that we encountered had to do with the timing of the expenses. The expenses of the utility fund primarily has to do with your water purchase from the municipal, San Patricia Municipal Water District. And you'll see that the expenses recorded in a month are 110,000. That's double your typical. And it had to do with getting the expenses recorded into the right month. There was also apparently a leak, which caused your monthly bill to go from $40,000 to $50,000. The amount of expenses over budget primarily had to do with certain repairs. I have also, and I have more information in a little bit to go into more detail, violet disinfectant part of the sewer system as water is coming out of the system and before it's discharged. With regards to fund number 3, the garbage fund, that is basically the Republic contract in terms of the expense. Again, we had a situation where we had more than 1 month being recorded, but it had to do with catching up and getting expenses recorded into the proper month. You have the revenues of 44, so you have a positive of approximately $80,000 year-to-date basis. Within your ordinances, there is a reference that the city council will be provided with a check register on a monthly basis. the beginning on the next page is the detail of the disbursements for the city for the month of August. And it also includes electronic funds transfers. You'll see a payment to TMRS that has to do with the employee pension plan. And then you have regular vendors. Kingdom Technology Services. That is one of the 12 monthly payments for the ultraviolet system that apparently was initiated last November or October, although I've not been able to find where the total project of $233,000 was actually reflected in the minutes of the council. There was an additional $75,000 lump sum payment to get you to the $230,000. Those payments and amounts do not include the warranty, extended warranty payments for that system. But again, I have more information and detail on that to go through. The streets tax payment of $10,000, those are the sales taxes allocated portion for the streets. In a little bit, we should see a similar payment for the exact amount also going to the EDC. We have the Texas Multi-State IEP. That is your health insurance for your employees. Rolling on, the xylem dewatering, that has to do with equipment rentals, and I'm not sure if it includes actual removal of the dewatered materials or not from the sludge at the treatment plant.
Which is that one?
That would be the xylem dewatering. That is check number 046053.
That is for, on lift station 210. We have a pump that was rented because the drop down pumps that are supposed to be in that lift station hadn't been installed. So they've been renting a pump plus hoses to make sure that the waste that goes into that lift station, which is the waste that comes from the motel as well as the taqueria and Dairy Queen and that whole area, that's where all the solid waste goes to. Since then, we have installed 2 pumps, which were part of the TCEQ inspection that they did. We've installed 2 pumps. We're making sure that those pumps are running the way they should. Once we know that they're running good, then we're going to return that equipment, and we no longer will have that expense. So I'm hoping that'll be done this month. In October, we no longer will have that expense in October. All right, sir.
And so moving on, we have Constellation New Energy. Those are your electric bills. You can see the street lights, and I believe these 2 have to do with your wastewater treatment plant, the $1,400 and the $1,600. I have had some discussions with AEP concerning possible conversion of street lights to LEDs. Because of the city's current cash flows, we'll just put that potential project on a list for some years from now.
What's the cost to do that?
I'm gonna say it was probably $50 a light, $150, yeah.
$139 per fixture.
Because I know we looked at it a couple of years, remember?
Yeah.
And it was expensive because of the head of the pole or something.
The city currently has a replace on failure agreement with AEP Texas. So if an existing light, sodium vapor light fails, we will install a new equivalent LED. But if you want to go through and change out lights that are operational, that's where the cost comes in. We call it stranded investment. We got to get that stranded investment back because that light's functioning. So if you wanted to go through and do a complete change out of lights, sodium vapor lights that are operational, that's where the $140, I think, or
In
per
that range.
fixture comes in.
And if they're not working now, we want to switch them.
If they're not working, when the tech goes out there, they'll automatically upgrade it to an LED fixture. Yeah, yeah, so even makers are, we've been told by our distributors, we're not gonna be able to get sodium vapor fixtures probably next year, they're phasing them out.
So kind of talk to you, we have contact for that?
Yes, 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 Dennis, you know, if y'all wanna look at that, and probably let's call the name on that, right? Yeah, so he's got all the data on it, and look at, because basically, I don't need to get off track here on you guys.
It's a 4-year payout. Payback.
Uses less kilowatt hours, and so we bill you kilowatt hours for your street light, and then your rep, you know, you pay your rep whatever that rep is, so your bill is gonna be reduced on just a basic kilowatt hour perspective, right? So that's where the savings are in all of this.
And for clarification, a failed unit does not include if somebody shoots the light out.
Yeah.
Just for the record straight, that's not a failure. That's a damaged goods.
So somebody's helping the city convert to LED. Might be a little suspicious.
Every other light.
A little Red Rider, right?
So the Kingdom Technology, 13,000, we talked about that. That's one of 12 payments. There are 3 more left, got approximately $40,000 to do that. The Linebarger Goggins payment has to do with their collections on tickets and things of that nature. Their fees are added to the tickets when they help with the project, and so after the court collects, then we have to pay them. If it were ad valorem taxes, the money we get from the tax office is already net of the Linebarger fees. The grain cooperative looks to me like we're buying gasoline and oil and things of that nature. We have Raul Hernandez, who is working on the 21-22 closings for the city's fiscal years in order to prepare them for audit. The Republic Services is the solid waste. And last but not least, San Patricia County, this is $45,000. And as I indicated, the September billing was an additional $10,000 on top of that. Odom Economic Development, that is their share of the sales taxes for the month. All total in the month, there were $237,000 of disbursements. Any questions with regards to those materials? Within the agenda item, the next item has to do with the approved budget for the year. That is in your packet. I believe we wound up a total of about 66 pages, inclusive of the fee schedules that I attached for the sake of having a clear documented things of each of the city's fees that were changed during the year. That's part.
It's gonna be on the website, right?
It should already be there, Ted.
Amanda, have you seen it?
Pop quiz on Tuesday. Don't hesitate to come by. And with that, I have prepared a 12-month cash forecast based upon that approved budget. On the right-hand side, you have the budgets as approved for each of the last 4 fiscal years. The October through September amounts are the annualized amounts, basically spread 1/12, unless there is a reason to understand otherwise, For instance, with regards to ad valorem taxes, you will collect approximately 65% of those taxes in the month of January. So basically, this schedule is attempting to get a handle upon what your cash flows are on a month-to-month basis throughout the year. And for the first page, which is the general fund, you can see that in October, you're expecting a $68,000 cash deficit. That's not unusual for municipal government. A municipal government has positive cash flows in its general fund in December, January, February from the ad valorem tax collections, but that money's got to last you all year. Moving on to the utility system. The utility system itself is not in a positive cash flow position on a month-to-month basis.